We're diving into some seriously cool AI stuff today. You know, you sent over that excerpt from Unlocking the Wisdom of Large Language Models?
By Edward Chang.
Yeah, that's the one. It's clear you're fascinated by the future of AI, and honestly, who isn't? Especially with how these LLMs like GPT-4 are changing the game.
It's true. And what's really interesting is that Chang doesn't just talk about achieving, like, artificial general intelligence or AGI in some vague sense, He actually proposes this really specific and pretty audacious framework for getting there.
Okay, now you've got me intrigued. Lay it on me.
So imagine, like, LLMs, these supercharged language models, actually talking to each other.
Okay.
Challenging each other's assumptions.
I like where this is going.
Kind of like a high-powered AI think tank.
Yeah.
Chang calls this framework Socrasynth.
Socrasynth. I love the name. It's like Socrates went digital and invited all the smartest AI to, like, a brainstorming session. But why is this dialogue between machines so important? Why not just build one, like super smart LLM to rule them all?
Well, that's a question a lot of people have, right? And here's the thing. As powerful as LLMs are, they're trained on these massive data sets created by us, humans.
Of course, yeah.
And, well, humans, we have our biases, we have our blind spots.
Yeah.
Chang argues that by having LLMs engage in these rigorous, even contentious, debates, we can essentially force them to confront those limitations head on.
So instead of just, like, spitting out what they think is the right answer based on their training data, they actually have to, like, defend their reasoning, just like in a real debate.
Exactly, yeah.
I can see how that could lead to some interesting insights. But, Chang himself mentions LLMs hallucinating, making stuff up. How does Socrasynth address that?
That's where it gets even cooler. So these hallucinations, right, they aren't repetitive in nature, so they can actually play into Socrasynth's strengths.
Oh!
Think of it this way. If one LLM throws out a hallucination as part of its argument, the other LLMs in the debate, they're coming from different perspectives and are very unlikely to make that same mistake. They'll challenge it, bring in counter arguments, and that whole back and forth helps refine the information and weed out the inaccuracies.
So it becomes like a self-correcting system where the AI is constantly refining its own understanding.
Yeah.
Like, that's next level.
It's really something.
We also have to talk about this polydisciplinary knowledge that Chang highlights. What does that even mean when we're talking about AI?
Basically, it means that LLMs, they don't specialize the way we do. They learn across disciplines. Imagine like an AI that can connect ideas from, say, physics and art history.
Okay.
And see a relationship there that a human expert in just one of those fields might completely miss. That's the kind of potential we're talking about.
This is already blowing my mind, and we're just getting started. But we've laid some important groundwork here. Socrasynth, this AI think tank, challenging biases and potentially unlocking, like, hidden knowledge. But how does this actually work in practice? What kind of results are we seeing?
To see Socrasynth in action, we need to look at the case studies that Chang lays out in the book. And trust me, they are fascinating.
Well, let's dive into those case studies then.
All right, so let's get into these case studies. They're really where Chang's ideas come to life. You know?
For sure.
Like, remember how we were talking about the power of asking the right questions?
Right.
Well, these studies show how Socrasynth doesn't just, lead to answers.
Yeah.
It generates entirely new questions, really pushing the boundaries of what we thought AI could do.
Now, that's what I call unlocking wisdom. So which case study really jumped out at you?
One that I thought was particularly fascinating was where Chang puts two GPT-4 agents, face to face.
Okay.
With those really big, like, existential questions about consciousness. Things like, what does it even mean to be conscious? Or could AI ever actually surpass human intelligence?
Those are questions philosophers have been grappling with for centuries. It's a lot to throw at even the most advanced AI.
Exactly. And that's what makes the results so interesting.
Okay.
These GPT-4 agents, they didn't shy away from the complexity at all.
Wow.
They dove right into those deep philosophical waters. They're analyzing different arguments.
Yeah.
And get this, they actually started generating questions that went beyond the initial prompts.
Okay, now you have to give me an example.
Okay.
How can AI come up with a question that, like, hasn't already occurred to humans after all this time?
So one of the prompts was just, what is consciousness?
Okay.
Now, any old LLM could give you a textbook definition, right?
Right.
But these GPT-4 agents, through their back and forth, they actually started exploring questions like, can you actually measure consciousness? And Is it a purely biological thing? Or could it exist in other forms, maybe even in AI?
Whoa.
These are questions that get to the very heart of what it means to, like, exist, to think, to be aware.
Yeah.
And they emerge totally organically from the dialogue.
So we're not just talking about AI, like, mimicking human thought, but actually exceeding it, taking us into uncharted intellectual territory.
That's exactly it. And Chang takes this idea even further with his Adam and Eve experiment, the second case study he sent over.
Okay. From consciousness to the Garden of Eden. I have to admit, I'm curious to see where this goes.
So remember, with SoccerSynth, we're using these prompts as launching pads for exploration, right? In this case, Chang uses that story of Adam and Eve as a lens for these GPT-4 agents to examine all sorts of really fascinating topics. Ecology, the ethics of artificial intelligence, even the relationship between, human cognition and technology.
So they weren't just like rehashing the biblical narrative.
Yeah, no.
They were drawing connections to real world issues and finding new layers of meaning in a story that's been told for millennia. That's amazing.
Yeah. And one of the things I thought was really striking, one of the insights that came out of this experiment, was this link the GPT-4 agents made between the Garden of Eden and, our current ecological crisis.
Oh, wow.
They essentially drew this parallel between, like, being expelled from Eden and the environmental consequences of human actions. It's like they were interpreting the story as a cautionary tale about how we treat our planet.
Wow. That is pretty profound, even for a couple of AI agents. It's like they're holding up a mirror to humanity, helping us understand ourselves and our place in the world in a whole new way.
It's definitely thought-provoking stuff. But it's important to remember that SoccerSynth is just one piece of the puzzle here.
Okay.
Chang's book also explores other exciting tools and frameworks for unlocking the true potential of LLMs.
You're really piquing my curiosity here. I'm ready to dive into these other frameworks. Tell me more. Okay, you've got me hooked. What other tools are we talking about here? What else does Chang have up his sleeve?
So he dives into a few other frameworks that are just as ingenious as SoccerSynth.
Okay.
Each one tackling kind of a different aspect of LLM development. He talks about EVNC, which uses information theory to actually measure and optimize the flow of information between LLMs.
Oh, interesting.
During those AI debates we were talking about.
Okay, so instead of just letting the AI chat away, even E is like a referee, making sure the conversation stays productive and focused.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's like measuring the contentiousness of the debate.
Okay.
Making sure there's enough disagreement to, like, spark exploration.
Right.
But not so much that it descends into chaos.
Yeah.
It's all about finding that sweet spot where real learning can happen.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, what else is in Chang's toolkit?
Well, he also talks about Dike,
Okay.
which is kind of like an independent ethics advisor for LLMs.
Oh, okay.
And, as AI becomes a bigger part of our lives,
Right.
we need to make sure it's aligned with our values, right?
Of course, yeah.
Dike is designed to identify and prevent unethical outputs from LLMs. Interesting. Without limiting their knowledge base.
So it's like giving AI a conscience, or at least some helpful guidelines to navigate those, like, tricky ethical gray areas.
Yeah, exactly.
It sounds like something we'll definitely need as AI gets more and more powerful.
Absolutely. And then there's RFELFEL,
Okay.
which is all about personalized AI training.
Okay.
So imagine a system that could pinpoint exactly where a particular LLM needs to improve and recommend specific data to boost its accuracy.
That's like having, like, a custom-tailored education, but for AI, it'd be incredible to have that level of, like, personalized learning.
It would be a game changer. And these are just a few examples.
Right.
What Chang is really getting at here is that we need, like, a multifaceted approach to AGI.
Okay.
One that addresses not just the, technical challenges, but also the philosophical and the ethical ones.
So after, like, diving deep into SoccerSynth, events, Dike, Rayfel, and all of Chang's, like, groundbreaking ideas here, where does this leave us in our quest for AGI?
Well, Chang doesn't claim to have all the answers.
Of course, yeah.
But he leaves us with a really powerful question.
Okay.
One that I think speaks to your own curiosity about the potential of AI.
Mm-hmm.
He asks, if LLMs can access and process such vast amounts of knowledge,
Right.
could they help us make breakthroughs in fields like, medicine, physics, even philosophy? Could they lead us to solutions and innovations we haven't even dreamed of?
It's like you were saying earlier, it's not just about AI thinking like us,
Right.
but thinking beyond us.
Exactly.
Unlocking possibilities we haven't even considered.
And what's really exciting is that, we're already seeing glimpses of this potential today.
It's true.
LLMs are assisting, scientists, artists, researchers in all kinds of fields.
Yeah.
The key, as Chang suggests, might not be just building smarter AI,
Right.
but teaching it to ask the right questions.
It's a powerful thought to end on.
It really is.
What does it all mean for you, the listener? Well, I think Chang would say, never stop asking those big questions. Don't be afraid to, challenge assumptions, to explore the unknown.
Here.
Because who knows, maybe the most profound discoveries are waiting for us just beyond the horizon, and AI might just be the key to unlocking them. This has been a truly mind-expanding deep dive.